This one letter could make the difference between a 0% and 100% rating. And the crazy thing is that most vets never use it to support their VA disability claim. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about what this letter is, how you should use it, who should write it, and why you don't even need a lawyer to make it work. So what is a Nexus Letter? A Nexus Letter is essentially an independent medical opinion or a medical opinion from your own personal doctor that gives the VA that missing piece of evidence connecting whatever condition you currently have that's not service connected to your military service. Now, this letter can be used to connect your disability to something that's already service connected, just showing the causation and the chain of events or why this is a disability. It can also help you with getting an injury or something that happened to you in the military and connecting it to something that you're currently experiencing right now, a current disability that you're dealing with. That's what a Nexus Letter can do for you. And they're really important because it's not something that you can just sit down on a laptop and type up yourself. This is something that's going to require somebody with medical training, some sort of expertise, someone that would be in the know, and they would write this letter for you and help you bridge the gap and get that evidence that the VA is looking for to make sure that you can claim this. Now, a lot of disability claims, they don't need a Nexus Letter. They need a Nexus, but you can get the Nexus in a lot of different ways, maybe through your medical records while you're in the military, and it's easy. But a lot of these more complicated claims, the ones that really increase your VA rating, they're gonna require a little bit more evidence than what you would normally get. And sure, the VA will help you get that, or they're supposed to help you, but a lot of times you're just dealing with a 20-minute C&P exam, and there's just not enough time there for the VA examiner to really dig in deep and get that for you. But with a Nexus Letter, using your personal doctor or an independent medical opinion, you can get that. So these Nexus Letters can really make the difference between a lot of paperwork that you're just throwing in to just really a strong claim. And some of our claims, let's face it, if you've been in the process for a while, you know that some of the claims that you submit, you've gotten your decision letters back, and you've learned that your claim was denied because it was missing the nexus, or at least it was missing the nexus to the standard that the VA requires. And this is especially true in secondary claims. So this letter can truly help address that problem and help you take that denial and win it. And that's why it's so important. So, who's gonna write a Nexus Letter? A Nexus Letter can really be written by your own personal doctor, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in the form of a letter. Your personal doctor could write comprehensive notes inside your medical records to make sure they can explain it. And I'm gonna talk about, what needs to go in there and why it makes it powerful. But if they are not gonna write a letter and they're just gonna simply put it in your medical records, they need to make sure that they hit some of these guidelines or some of the information that's required. Then there's also like independent medical doctors that will write them. I wouldn't go to the VA and ask. You could ask your doctor at the VA, but you're very likely to get them to say that this is a conflict of interest, and they may not be interested in helping you in that manner. But a private doctor might be able to help you out, and an independent medical, you can get an independent medical opinion. I do have a website, informedveteran.com, and I have a directory of medical professionals that pride themselves in writing these letters for you. They do charge. The website is free of charge. I do not charge you to look at that, but the doctors that are on there, they will. But these guys are professionals. They've done these things before. They have good track records. They won't guarantee it, but they know what they're doing, and they'll give you, most of them will give you a free consultation, and they can help you out with that. So check that out. I'll leave a description of that link down below, and if it helps you, that's great. If not, no big deal. Now, before I start jumping into the rest of this, I want to, just ask you if this is already helping you, the information that I'm putting out. I put out a bunch of videos. Just hit that subscribe button for me. And then, of course, if you need that Nexus letter, definitely check out the directory that I have for you. So moving forward, we know what a Nexus letter is now, but what makes a Nexus letter so powerful? Think about it. You have a real doctor who understands the body and how different conditions impact other parts of the body and how they cause these other disabilities that you might be dealing with. And some of these doctors that you're going to go to, they're specialists. So they're they're well respected in their field, and what they say really carries a lot of weight. Now compare that with your VA examiner. A lot of times when I go to my examiners, my CMP examiners, a lot of times they're nurse practitioners, they're physician's assistants, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those are all great. But if we're going to a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant, but we have a letter from a specialist in the field, let's say it's an orthopedic doctor for an orthopedic condition, that nurse practitioner and that physician assistant that's at that CMP exam, they might, carry a little bit more weight with what they say. Now, let's just say that your Nexus letter is coming from a nurse practitioner or a PA, but that nurse practitioner or PA had a little more time to sit down with you and evaluate your medical records and talk to you, and also has, access to all of this different research on disability connection, or how different disabilities are connected to the other, and they understand the VA lingo. That's going to carry a lot of weight with your CMP examiner, who's going to do your DBQ. And if they see that all this time and energy went into it, a lot of times I think that they wouldn't disagree. Now, they may at sometimes disagree, but I think it's going to carry a lot of weight with your medical claim, your disability claim, if you have that in there. So that's what makes these things so powerful. And this can be especially powerful during secondary conditions and trying to show the causation from one injury, which is service connected, to one that's not. And having just that, professional medical opinion in there. And now whether, this is a doctor that you pay for to write this thing, or whether you're getting one from your personal doctor, the time and energy that those medical professionals, those doctors, those individuals that have gone through schooling take to look at your records and write their opinion of this, it can be very powerful in a CMP exam. So there's that. Now, that the medical opinions and these Nexus letters are powerful. Let's talk about what's in them, because you can really mess up pretty bad by going to your personal doctor and just telling them, hey, I need some help. I need a Nexus letter written. First of all, most of them are going to be confused about what you need or what you want or what you're even asking for. But they might say, sure, like, hey, you've been coming here forever. I'll write you a Nexus letter. Hey, this is connected to the military service, but they don't forget, they might forget to add some of the things that the VA is looking for. So if you're going to get a Nexus letter, you want to be prepared to ask your doctor, or tell your doctor what needs to be in there, what information they should consider putting in to make it a good Nexus letter. Number one, they want to make sure that they talk about your diagnosis. They want to make sure that they very clearly say that you are suffering from a condition and that doctor has diagnosed you with this condition. And then they want to be able to say in there that that this condition is connected to another condition, or I'm sorry, that your condition is connected to something that has already occurred or something that you already have connected to the service. And they want to quantify that statement. And there's really two ways, there's probably more than two ways, but there's different levels of quantifying something. The VA in their law book, in the 38 CFR 3.102, you'll talk about the burden of proof. And the VA's burden of proof is really low. And it's just benefit of the doubt. So basically what that means is if a doctor can look at your situation and say that it is at least 50-50, there's at least a 50-50 chance that condition A caused condition B, or an incident or an injury or an illness or something that happened to you in the military years ago caused this condition that you're currently suffering from, at least a 50% chance, then the benefit of the doubt rationale, the veteran wins. You'll get that service connection, or at least you should, if they're following the burden of proof rationale. So the kind of the language that you want to talk to your doctor about, and obviously you're not going to tell your doctor what it has to be, but you're basically explaining to your doctor that, if it's a 50-50 shot, then it's worth it. If it's more than 50%, then that's also worth it. And some of the common language that you'll see in a lot of these Nexus letters is at least as likely as not, or more than likely as not. You'll see, also less than likely. And that's a bad one, right? That's less than 50%. So the burden, it doesn't go in your favor on that. So just be thinking about that. And that's what you want to not talk to your doctor about. But when they do put that statement in there, they just can't throw that statement in there willy-nilly. They've got to have some sort of articulation and why. Why does that happen? Why is a bum ankle on your left side causing, pain in your knee on the left side or on the right side? Why is it messing your hips up? Why is your lower back hurting? They need to be able to explain in medical terminology why that's occurring and why they believe that to be the case. So make sure that you have those three things: clear diagnosis, medical rationale, and then the percentage, right? At least as likely as not, more likely than not. And of course they want to put down like maybe their credentials and like how long they've been doing this. And that they also, one other important thing is that they reviewed your medical records, that they interviewed you about what happened to you in the military, that they're trying to connect this to, and they're basically making an opinion about it, and they're pushing that off. Now, when do you need a Nexus letter? First, do we need a Nexus letter for every single VA disability claim? No, absolutely not. We always need a Nexus, but we don't want to pay for a Nexus letter every single time. Nexus letters can be very expensive, and so we definitely don't need them. Now, if you have no mention of this condition that you're applying for in your medical records, you have nothing that you can link it to, then you may need a Nexus letter, because you're going to need that connection. But I like to think of needing a Nexus letter when I'm trying to do a complicated claim or something very complex. And what comes to mind for me very often is when someone's trying to do a secondary claim, when they're trying to connect something, when they're trying to say that that their knee pain is from their ankle pain, or something like that, or their migraines are coming from their sinusitis or PTSD, or whatever the case is. That's when you need to start thinking about a Nexus letter. And how you can gauge it is you've just got to think inside your head, how do I connect this thing? Well, of course, medical rationale tells me that this causes this. And sure, you can go online and Google something and try and pull up some medical reports. And I've tried it, and it might work sometimes and it might not. But if you can have a really strong claim by paying $1,000 to an independent medical opinion, independent medical opinion, it might really make the difference between increasing your rating from a 30 to a 60%, or talking to your doctor about it and making sure that your doctor understands what needs to be in there and making sure that they're comfortable making that assessment for you. So that's really when you really should be considering a Nexus letter, is those secondary conditions, those complex conditions. And if you're looking to do a secondary condition, I want to encourage you to watch the video that I'm going to tag here at the end of this video. It's how to file secondary claims the right way. I think watching that video after this one will really help you, kind of guide you in developing the right strategy to move that forward. So now that we know when you need a Nexus letter, let's jump into some of the common mistakes that veterans make with Nexus letters. And this one's really important. First of all, not using a medical professional, right? I think probably there's a few veterans that might think that they can get maybe their spouse to write a Nexus letter to try and explain this, this theory. That's not going to work. It's got to be like a medical professional, somebody that's went to school, somebody that has, maybe it can even be a physician assistant or a nurse practitioner. It's got to be someone that went to school. I mean, there is VA law. I thought I wrote it down in my notes here, but I guess I didn't. But there is VA law out there that tells you, like, you know, that the person that's making these articulations, making these theories, they've got to have some sort of education and training. You know, they got to have some sort of medical background. A PA and an MP is fine, but you know, if you're doing a really complicated one and you want to go above and beyond, consider getting a specialist. And again, go on my medical Nexus Letter directory. There are a few specialists in there for different things: sleep apnea, orthopedics. Go in there and find somebody that has done these and has experience, and that, you know, is a specialist. Because if you've got a specialist in your corner and they're looking at all your stuff and they're spending time evaluating your medical records, interviewing you about whatever it is that happened to you in service, and they're writing up their letter, that CMP examiner is gonna give that Nexus Letter some weight. So, you know, don't make the mistake of just paying for one with somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about, or maybe they're not credentialed. You certainly don't want to do that. You want to find someone that's got a good track record, and that can, you know, give you something that's gonna help you win that claim, right? Like, we want to increase our rating by using these secondary claims. It's part of the strategy. You also don't want to use your personal doctor if they don't understand really what they're doing. And, you know, I think some of you have probably asked your doctors, and probably a lot of doctors don't feel comfortable because they don't really know what they're doing. You want to make sure that a doctor can include those things that I talked about earlier. You want to make sure that they can put that diagnosis in there. They can evaluate your records from service. They can evaluate your records currently, and they can make a clear distinction and give you that, you know, that percentage, that they can quantify that. They want to be able to say that, you know, this is at least as likely as not caused by the other service-connected condition, or more likely than not. You know, you want to stay away from vague language to where the VA is kind of like, what the heck is he talking about? And you definitely don't want to pay for a Nexus Letter if a doctor isn't willing to commit or quantify. Okay, so now that you know about the common mistakes that veterans make with these, you know, where do you find these doctors at? And I've mentioned it a bunch of times. You can Google and look for Nexus Letter doctors. There's a lot of them out there. Or you can just jump onto informedveteran.com. It's a website that has a list of Nexus Letter doctors, and it's growing. So check that out. That would help me out, and it's free for you. It's a resource. I will also be adding a feature on there very soon on how to review them, so you can see what other veterans have said. That's coming soon. So check that out. I think that'll be helpful. So just lastly, as we close this thing out, you know, this is how you increase your rating. This is a strategy. You know, everybody uses this strategy to increase their rating, to move up after you get all your normal claims done. You know, this is a strategy that you can use. You won't need an attorney for this type of strategy. You know, you go get the attorney after this doesn't work, if it doesn't work, but if you do it right, it should. If you should rate this, and this should be, you know, your condition that's rateable, you should be able to win this with a Nexus Letter. So just coupling that with just the right strategy and documentation, medical evidence, you should have no problem winning this. If this content helps you, please hit the subscribe button. It helps me grow. It helps me keep this thing going. And I will link the video for how to file a secondary condition the proper way, so that will help you. And that should be the next video you watch if you're at this stage in your VA disability claim process.